This is just a review of things that were looked at yesterday. So this will help you possibly with the work from yesterday, but definitely the work from today as well. So the first thing we're going to look at is the slope equation. So that means if this equation right here is for any line that you see on a graph. So if we have this equation, we can draw a line. Okay, so what were the parts of the equation? So m was equal to the slope, and if you remember, the slope was the rise over the run. That's important to remember. Okay, the b in the equation is the y-intercept. So this is where a lot of people were a little bit confused. So y-intercept means that if I have a graph and say this was my line, the y-intercept is the point that the line crosses the y-axis. This line that goes up and down is the y-axis. So in that graph it would be there. On this graph, the y-intercept would be this point right here. On this graph, the y-intercept would be here. The y-intercept is only one point. The one point where the line goes across the y-axis. So these are problems that we're going to work on today. So you're going to have a line on the graph, and we're going to ask these three things. What is the slope? What is the y-intercept? And then we're going to write the equation. So looking at this graph right here, okay, the first thing you want to look for is the y-intercept. It's the easiest thing. Where's the y-intercept? This graph, this line crosses the y-axis at this point. Okay, that is 0. So the y-intercept is 0. And then we need our slope. Our slope, the rise over the run. So let's use this point right here. So we're going to count up. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 is on top. And then it will count, the run is 1 and 2. So we have 5 over 2, the rise over run, 5 over 2. So now the equation. Well, the equation started with y equals the slope is 5 over 2, and then x plus the y-intercept, which is 0. Well, for this one, you don't have to write the 0. So the equation, because 0 is nothing. So the end equation, that would be the final answer, would be y equals 5 over 2x, okay, for this equation. So again, we started with the equation is y equals mx plus b. So we have put everything in. We found the y-intercept first. Then we found the slope by doing the rise over the run. Okay, and then using the slope and the y-intercept, we could make the equation. Okay, so let's try this one. So this one's a little bit similar, except for the direction of the line. Okay, so what's the y-intercept here? Where did this line cross the y-axis? It crossed the y-axis at 0. Okay, now if you remember, if I told you that a line that goes down this way, this is negative. And if a line goes this way, it is positive. So this final answer right here, this line goes down. So that'll be a negative slope. The slope will be negative. Okay, so let's find the rise over the run. So the rise here is 1, 2, and 3. So we will have 3. And then what is the run? It goes over 1. Okay, and remember, this line goes in this direction. That means it's negative, so we just put a negative in front. Okay, so now we fill in our equation. So we can write the master equation, y equals mx plus b. So we'd say y equals, okay, the slope, which is the m. So it's minus 3 over 1 x. And then again, for this y-intercept, we have 0. So we don't have to put anything. So our final answer is this. Because plus 0 doesn't need to be added. Okay, so this is the one for you to try. Select several of the problems that we just did. So here's your line. Here's your equation. Mx plus b. So you want to look at the graph. You want to find the slope. First you find the y-intercept. Then write the equation. Okay, so when you find that answer, show me, and then you're going to work on the sheet for today. And if you need help, please ask so that you can finish that work.